All right, let's just dive right in. So, I want you to picture it. Vienna, 1949. The Second World War just ended. But man, the tension in the air, you could literally cut it with a knife. We're talking a classic film noir setup here, shadows stretching across the cobblestones, collars pulled up against the cold, everyone kind of watching everyone else. Now, you might be wondering why we're starting an explainer about modern tech in post-war Europe. Well, it's actually a brilliant way to understand how we communicate today, and more importantly, how we're being watched. Today, we're going to look at how a system called zk-SNARKs is taking a massive cue from the past to just completely rewrite the rules of digital privacy. Back in '49, Vienna wasn't just one cohesive city. It was divided into 4 occupation zones. That number, 4, it basically defined everything. Imagine these invisible borders just carved across the map, tightly controlled by 4 different global powers. If you wanted to move around above ground, you were navigating this absolute labyrinth of authorities. Every single step you took could be monitored, checked, and recorded by whoever controlled that specific block. I mean, imagine having to show your papers just across the street to grab some bread. It was a world totally defined by checkpoints and constant, unblinking surveillance. You couldn't just exist. You had to be accounted for, all the time. But there was this whole other world right under their boots. Beneath those heavily guarded streets ran a vast, super complex network of sewer tunnels. And here is the absolutely crucial detail. This network, it was mapped by no government and monitored by 0 checkpoints. Because it was completely decentralized and hidden, smugglers could just move through these tunnels freely. No single zone, no single authority could see the whole picture. If you dropped underground, no one, and I mean no one, could trace where you truly went or who you met up with. It was this space of absolute, untracked freedom sitting literally right beneath a space of absolute control. Okay, but here's the thing. That's not just a history lesson, that's an architecture. We're not just talking about post-war Europe anymore, we're talking about the very structure of our modern digital communication. Actually, scratch that, it's more like a direct blueprint. This historical reality, a divided, highly monitored city sitting right on top of a hidden, unmonitored tunnel system, it's exactly how we need to understand data movement today. Because honestly, we're essentially living in a digital Vienna right now, and most of us are just wandering right through the checkpoints without even realizing it. Think about the above ground for a second. Every single private messenger most of us use on a daily basis still runs through a centralized server. You got to think of those servers as our modern-day checkpoints. They're just sitting out there in the open, watching exactly who crosses from one zone to another. But on the flip side, we have the underground. Instead of building just another checkpoint, this system called zk-SNARKs, they built the tunnels instead. They completely bypassed those centralized servers entirely, opting for cryptographic tunnels that directly mirror that unmapped sewer network of 1949 Vienna. They literally built a way to walk under the grid. And this is exactly where we have to talk about the fatal flaw in those above-ground systems. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, hey, but my messages are encrypted. And you know what? You'd be right. But there's this massive, glaring vulnerability. They still see the footprints. Even the messaging apps that encrypt exactly what your text says, they still know who you sent it to and exactly when you sent it. They hold the metadata, right? So they might not know what you texted your buddy at 2 a.m., but they know you did it, and they know exactly where your phone was when you hit send. They are the checkpoints, watching you walk up to the gate, checking your ID, logging your timestamp, even if they can't read the letter folded up in your pocket. Make no mistake, you are still being mapped. So, how do you build those unmapped tunnels and actually escape the mapping? Well, zk-SNARKs relies on a very specific type of architecture, zk-SNARKs. Yeah, it's a mouthful, but these are basically zero-knowledge proofs. So what does that actually mean in plain English? Think of a zero-knowledge proof kind of like a bouncer at a club who can mathematically verify you're over 21 without you ever showing an ID, without revealing your birth date or even telling them your name. You prove the statement is true without revealing the underlying data. It's wild. In this system, these proofs allow messages to move as shielded transactions, specifically on the BitcoinZ blockchain. This blockchain is basically the digital concrete of our underground tunnel. It's a way to prove that a transaction, or in this case, a text message, is entirely valid and real without ever revealing who sent it or who's on the receiving end. And the result of using this kind of architecture? No single node sees the sender. No single node sees the receiver. Just like those 4 occupying powers in Vienna couldn't see the whole picture of the underground, no single checkpoint in this digital setup sees the whole picture either. The message moves through the network, it gets verified as real by the system, but the crazy part is it happens without anyone above ground ever knowing it passed through. The footprints have literally been washed away. It's this perfectly closed loop of verification with absolute zero visibility.
All of this really brings to mind that classic noir thriller, The Third Man, which, fun fact, happens to be set in that exact 1949 Vienna environment we started with. In that story, the whole plot revolves around tunnels that no one could map. Well, Ztext is our modern equivalent, a blockchain no one can subpoena. Think about it. Because there's no centralized server, no master checkpoint hoarding all the records of who talked to whom and when, there is simply no central authority to hand those records over. You can't subpoena a map that doesn't exist, right? There's no filing cabinet to crack open, no massive server farm to raid. The information, it just simply isn't there.
So, how do you completely redact your digital footprint? I mean, unlike modern apps that demand your phone number, your email, and practically your firstborn child just to send a quick hello, this system takes a totally different route. To use it, you need no phone number, no email address. It doesn't even require a SIM card. It systematically strips away every single one of those modern digital identifiers that we've just gotten so used to handing over. The ultimate result here is zero metadata. Zip. Zilch. There is no record of your digital existence in that transaction. You are moving through the tunnels completely unseen.
Look, we've been talking a lot about secret tunnels, hidden messages, and escaping surveillance today, themes that definitely feel like they belong in some cinematic thriller. But the reality is, that level of privacy, that's not a spy movie. That's just Tuesday. It's a functioning daily reality for this tech. This architecture isn't just some theoretical white paper. It is actively running beneath the surface of our heavily monitored digital world right now, which really leaves us with one incredibly important question to chew on. If absolute, untraceable privacy is fully possible on a random Tuesday, why do we keep willingly handing over our digital passports every single time we hit send?